Good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Hudak, and I am the Democratic Municipal Chairman of the City of Linden. Tonight's candidate debate for Mayor and Council President is being sponsored by the Linden City Democratic Club. Club President Joe Bodak had another commitment this evening, so he could not be here, so I am offering some welcoming remarks. I appreciate everyone who came out this evening to hear from the candidates. We have participation from all three candidates for both Mayor and Council President. After the filing deadline, the Democratic Club of the City of Linden reached out to the New Jersey League of Women Voters for the possibility of having them come in and moderate a impartial candidates forum. And we were very fortunate to hear from Dawn Clark, who is a certified moderator who does events for the League of Women Voters all throughout the state, and she will be moderating for us this evening. And so without further ado, I would like to turn the podium over to Dawn.
Thank you very much. It's a real pleasure to be here because this is important for Linden. And the League of Women Voters is very glad to participate and work with you on this because it's an opportunity for many candidates to be heard. And it's a good opportunity then for you in Linden to hear what your candidates have to say and to make a good reasoned decision as you go to vote on the primary election on June 6th. So it's important that you do this. I'd like to give you a little blurb from the League of Women Voters because we do this for all candidates' forums. The League of Women Voters of New Jersey is a nonpartisan political organization. It encourages informed and active participation in government, works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. Elections and voting are core concerns for the League of Women Voters. Leagues are committed to providing fact-based information about issues and positions of the candidates that they may take on to help voters make their own decisions and participate in the electoral process. The League of Women Voters never supports or opposes any candidate for office or any political party. Any use of the League name or footage from the debate in campaign materials or literature or advertising of any kind, including internet, cable, or television, has not been authorized by the League of Women Voters. We are very particular about the fact that we are nonpartisan and we do not support any candidate nor do we endorse any party. As a courtesy to the candidates, I would like to ask you, please turn off your cell phones and other electronic devices now. And during the debates, please don't take pictures. We are having it videotaped, and that will be available later. So if you would like to take pictures afterward, we would be happy, and the candidates would love to entertain pictures. The format for this evening is a two-part forum. And the first part is going to be for the three candidates that have filed for to be the Democratic candidate for Mayor of Linden. And the format for that part of the debate will be that each of the candidates will have 2 minutes for an opening statement, and they've drawn for the order of their opening statement. And it just turns out that it turns out to be alphabetical, but it really was a random drawing. After the opening remarks by each of the candidates, we have 3 news reporters who have graciously agreed to come and ask questions of the candidates. And you will note immediately on the left is Tom Hayden from the Star Ledger, And next to him is Cheryl Hale from the local source. And then we have Suzanne Russell from the Home News Tribune. And it's very nice of them to come and pose their questions. They are going to take turns posing questions to the candidates. And they will start with one candidate, but each of the candidates will have an opportunity to respond. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to the question. If they need it, there will be an opportunity for a 30-second rebuttal. After we're done with the questions, then we will have a 2-minute closing statement from each of the candidates, following which we will have a break, and the mayoral candidates will go down, and then we'll ask the council president candidates to come up, and we will have a similar format for them. They will have a 2-minute opening. However, the questions for the council president candidate will be posed by me, and they will have the same time, 1 minute to respond, and a 2-minute closing. So I hope you're ready. We have timekeepers down in the front. That's to keep us, both the candidates and me, honest. And they will let the candidates know when they have 30 seconds by holding up a yellow card, and when they have to stop, they will hold up the red card. So, are we all prepared? Yes, ma'am. If so, okay. Then, you know, I gotta have this on the other side. I can't look and talk. Okay, we're in business? All right. Then I think you probably know these people better than me, but I'd like to introduce the candidates for mayor, and they are to my, yes, if you would like to come up, they would appreciate it. I can still talk. On my far left is Derek Armstead. Next to Mr. Armstead is Roshana Cosby Hurling, and next to Ms. Hurling is Michael Puzio. And the lucky gentleman who drew first place for first speaker is Derek Armstead. Mr. Armstead, in 2 minutes, please. Opening statement.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Derek Armstead, and first of all, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for having this forum this evening. 4 years ago, I ran for mayor and I won the Democratic primary here in Linden. I came incredibly close to winning the general election with the exception of some absentee ballots. That being said, I feel that the people in Linden, at least many of them, were ready for a change. And I'm prepared to bring that change. Several months ago, I was approached by the Democratic chairman of our town, and him and I sat down and discussed the possibility of the Linden Democratic Organization supporting me. However, it came with conditions. They wanted to pick my running mates. And I said, under no circumstances, because I don't feel as though I would be able to effectively move the city forward without the type of support and men and women around me who share the same ideology that I do. Linden is at a crossroads. We don't have the same economic base that we had shared in previous years. Our industrial complexes have moved, and we just don't have the revenues. There's been a shift that's moved to the homeowners. So in order to change that, we have to have a different strategy. My strategy will be twofold. The first thing we need to do is to consider having a tax abatement for anyone who wants to repair their home. We cannot penalize homeowners for making changes that will increase the value of their homes. The second thing we have to do is work twofold with industry and try to attract new industries in our town. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Roshana Cosby Hurling.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you to the Linden Democratic Club, the Linden Board of Education, and the Union County League of Women Voters, and all you residents who came out tonight. My name is Rashana Cosby Hurling. I am the Democratic Party's nominee for the office of mayor. I am a Democrat who embodies the founding principles of our party, which include helping the excluded and the disenfranchised by providing a governmental framework which will provide everyone a full opportunity to reach the American dream. And I'd like to be your mayor. I proudly represent the 5th Ward, a very diverse community filled with young families, professionals, and quite a few seniors who are struggling to stay in their homes. Linden, we need a new direction. Our taxes are out of control. Our services are being cut. For a long time, we have had incumbent politicians, and they have no plan for our future. We need a change. I believe we can do better for the overburdened taxpayers. I have learned over my short time here on council that cooperation is what gets things done. And we need a mayor who's willing to work with all the council members, neighboring communities, and bridge political differences so that we can build relationships and move our city forward. A mayor who is willing to work with everyone on council, get rid of the garbage tax that we have. I'm proud of my record. I did not vote for the garbage tax. I sponsored an ordinance, actually, that protects our children here in Linden. I will continue to work hard to bring more opportunities for recreation for everyone in the community. Linden residents deserve better. As mayor, I will fight to get Linden's runaway taxes under control, bolster our public safety agencies, and provide safer neighborhoods, and boost our quality services. On June 3rd, I'm running with the Democratic team on column A, George Alvarez for council president. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Michael Puzio. Mr. Puzio.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. It's so wonderful to see so many caring people. And let me just introduce myself. I'm Mike Puzio. I'm a lifelong resident of Linden. And much for the same reason, I'm running because I also care very much about Linden. I'd much like you have seen that this city has declined over the last 8 years. And I think we need new leadership, objective leadership that doesn't work for the county or for the city, leadership that has qualifications such as a college education, qualifications such as being an economist, working as a financial analyst, and moreover, someone who has new solutions and new visionary leadership. Now, some of the things that have been mentioned, such as the fact that the garbage fee needs to be eliminated, clearly came from people who are currently on council. I think, though, that beyond the fact of eliminating the garbage fee, there needs to be looked at the fact that over the last 6 years, we've had approximately 6% increase in our taxes. We need new leadership that will ensure that such increases don't continue to occur. We need sustainable budgets for the future. Overall, I am running because I believe in Linden, and I believe in the future of Linden. I wouldn't continue to live here as a young person if I didn't believe in this city, and I didn't believe in the affordability and sustainability of this city. Overall, the reason why I'm running is because the city can be sustainable in the future. And I think with my leadership, with your vote, we can make that happen. Thank you.
And thank you. Now we'll go to the questions. And I'd like to start with you, Mr. Hayden. Can you please pose a question to Mr. Armstead to start?
Certainly, this is working good. You've all talked about the finances of the city. Taxes are a problem across New Jersey, not just Linden, but do you have any specific ideas of how you can get the city finances under control and keep the taxes under control?
You got to do that in 1 minute, Mr. Armstead.
Well, the first thing that I would look at, as my opponents mentioned, is the garbage tax. Linden is in a very unique situation here. We have a Department of Public Works where we have two facilities. We have a municipal garage and we have our DPW building. Our DPW building sits on 9 acres. It's ideally suited for us to bring in to have our own transfer station where we could process our own garbage. We spend upwards of $1 million a year for waste removal. What we need to do, we have $450,000 that we have in a trust account that's dedicated to recycling. We can bond for another maybe $1 million or so and build a state-of-the-art facility on those 9 acres where we could process our own trash, we could have other towns bring our trash in, and it would become a profitable business for us. It would reduce that $1 million that we pay a year, and that would therefore reduce the garbage tax that we're assessing the homeowners. 90% of your household waste that you put in the garbage is something that can be recycled. But first, we must remove ourselves. We're under a contract with the Union County Utilities Authority where we are mandated to bring a certain amount of garbage to their facility. No one government entity should force another government entity to have to spend or pay a fee when they can do it cheaper.
Thank you. Ms. Cosby-Hurling, can you comment on what you would do specifically?
Yes, ma'am. The taxes here in Linden have been going up steadily for many years, and it's in part due to the leadership that we had here in the Finance Committee. Councilman Armstead chaired the Finance Committee in 2011 and 2012. We need to have professionals here in Linden. My running mate and I are prepared to go and get a business administrator, which this current mayor has not done. A business administrator would help us to work with development organizations and bring, reasonable, viable businesses here where we lost a lot of our industry. So when you look at towns further down the Route 1 and 9 corridors, such as Rawway, and you look at Woodbridge, they have train stations and they're building up where they lost, commercial industry. We can do the same thing. We have the property. We just need the professionals. And as the mayor, I would look to bring in professionals, people who know their business. And that's what we need here, people that are going to bring it in and, get it done. It's far too long that we haven't had a development. The last development we had was, I can't even remember the last development we had in the last 8 years. We're still waiting for Walmart.
Mr. Pusio, your comments.
Yes, thank you. Personally, I believe that first and foremost, we need to work on solutions to make sure that our citizens actually have money to spend at businesses in the local community. I believe that small businesses are the bedrock of a thriving community, and if we look at the current downtown, there's very little of that. Instead, current council members have essentially supported mega corporations like Walmart, ensuring that properties such as the GM property, where there was a company that provided unionized, good-paying labor jobs, are now essentially going to companies that provide cheap China products and below minimum wage jobs. My solutions would look at reassessment of property values to ensure that people actually don't see their taxes go up and that they actually get a fair rate on their house. Moreover, I believe that we need to redevelop the downtown, make sure that we market Linden as a town that people actually want to come to and spend money in. And I believe that is just ultimately the solutions that will work.
Ms. Cosby-Hurling would like 30 seconds.
Yes, please. I just want to be clear that Linden's downtown should not go away. It should not be invisible. I want to remind everyone that we are a transit village community. Our job is to develop downtown. No one in the city of Linden has done that. My plan would be to work very closely with the Special Improvement District, who's working very hard, by the way, to improve Linden's downtown, and they're looking for Linden Uptown. You may have seen that advertised here lately. And working with them to bring in those small businesses so that Linden's downtown will be a nice place to live, shop, and work. So, it's in the works, and you just need a mayor who's going to foster that.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you. I'm going to now ask Ms. Hale to direct a question to Ms. Cosby-Hurling.
Thank you. There has been a public push by Mayor Grabunka to change the form of government. How do you feel about that? And do you feel that it's necessary?
Okay. I do not feel changing our form of government is necessary by any means. The mayor was a sitting councilman for over a decade, and he never complained. The mayor sat as mayor now for 8 years, and he still never complained, and so he didn't get his way. The form of government in Linden works. What does not work are the people who are elected. That's why I'm running for mayor. Sometimes the people want power. Politics is not about power. It's about the people. And that's why we should be here doing the people's business. The form of government works as long as the people in the positions are working for the people. That's my position. I disagree with the mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Armstead, would you comment on that?
The mayor's idea of changing the form of government, it does have some merit. However, to have a BA, as many on council has agreed to do, will not work under our current form of government because we are still a governing body that's a councilmatic body. We're a committee form of government. So therefore, your BA essentially will still be answering to your council members. So it just won't work. If we're going to have a BA, you're going to have a change of government.
Mr. Puzio.
First and foremost, we need an objective leader to ensure that decisions are actually made in citizens' interests and the interests of the public. Having someone who works for the county as mayor doesn't ensure that because there's always someone else who can hold leverage against those people. Having a mayor who votes on budgets is actually a good thing because why do we elect people to office if they're not going to decide on things that actually pertain to us? So I actually believe that there are merits to this change, and moreover, I support it.
Ms. Cosby Hurling would like 30 seconds rebuttal.
Yes, please.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Changing the form of government is something that we should not do. I want to say that the business administrator was unanimously agreed to by the full council in 2013, and the mayor has the power, he has had the power for the past 5 months to vet and seek a qualified, objective individual who can come in and run the day-to-day operations. We are elected officials, and the council members and the mayor will set policy. We need someone with the experience to run a multi-million-dollar organization such as the city. My job as mayor would be to work with other governmental agencies and create public-private partnerships.
Thank you. Now we're going to ask Ms. Russell if she would address a question to Michael Puzio, please.
Good evening. Last year, the city was looking at layoffs and demotions. Oh, you can't hear me? In the police department due to budget shortfalls. The union agreed to concessions to avert those layoffs. What steps are you looking to for the future as far as layoffs in the police and the fire department?
Well, to begin with, I think that if we actually had leadership that was able to bring the new solutions and alternatives that we need to ensure that we reduce costs within our city, within the city budget, we wouldn't even have to consider layoffs. We wouldn't have to consider furloughs. Those sorts of things wouldn't even come up for discussion if we actually worked toward the types of things that make a budget sustainable enough so that you don't have to actually cut away the people that provide the services that make the city run. So I think bringing new leadership in, such as I can bring, to look at the solutions that can reduce costs is the first step.
Mr. Armstead, could you address that?
I believe that the answer to our problems with regard to the police department lies in our ability to convince our police officers to stay in town. When you're a police officer, you're a public safety officer 24 hours a day. If you go to the supermarket and someone's robbing the supermarket, you can act. You have a point of presence. Everywhere there's a police officer in town, his home would be a point of presence. And I believe that we have to create some incentives to get our police and our public safety officers and to get them to remain in town. How we do that? Perhaps we create some sort of a tax abatement for them. telling any police officer who remains in town that maybe we'll freeze their taxes. Because to me, it's a savings. If you have a police officer in town, it's a savings because he's on duty 24 hours a day.
Ms. Gosby-Hurling.
Yes, ma'am. First, let me thank our public safety, police, and fire for all that they do and for actually giving back and, you know, working with us so no one did have to get laid off. We shouldn't be balancing the budget on the taxpayers back here. We need to make sure that we have professionals, like I said, in place. If we have a business administrator under this form of government, it will work. A business administrator will work with the treasurer, and they will be clear on what we can and cannot spend. We need to make sure that we have people in the positions that can certify funding. We can't just go and write a check and then next year borrow money. And be clear that when the police and fire were looking to be laid off, we had a finance committee that was in place for 2 years in effective leadership. Councilman Armstead chaired the committee for 2 straight years, and we're looking to lay off policemen and fire. We can't afford that.
Thank you. Would you like 30 seconds, Mr. Arms?
Well, I'm glad we all agree that all these problems occurred in 2 years. But what I would say is this: these problems occurred over several years, and there's no one-size-fits-all solution to crime in our city. But I will say this: if we can convince our police and our public safety officers to stay in town, I think Linden will be a much safer place, and you may even be able to reduce your complement, because when they're in town, they represent a point of presence wherever they go.
Ms. Gosby-Hurling.
Yes. So I stand corrected. Councilman Armstead was right. This didn't happen in only 2 years. It's happened over a number of years. 2 decades, Councilman Armstead's been here. He sat on finance for several years. No. So it didn't just happen in 2 years. I agree. So we need to get people in the positions, such as myself and my running mate, that we can actually look to make Linden a better place and not look to lay off our public safety.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Puzio.
Yes, and if I might be able to chime in here above the fray, as I've said, looking at ensuring that our budget stands well, that our city is sustainable in terms of the businesses that we bring in order to have revenues and ratables, businesses that people actually want to visit and provide sustainable jobs, such as a medical trauma center as opposed to a super Walmart, are ways that intertwine with the fact that ensuring a stable budget ensures that we don't have to lay anyone off.
Thank you. Ms. Russell, would you be comfortable in posing a question now to Ms. Cosby-Hurling?
Absolutely. A few weeks ago, there was a smell detected from the basement of City Hall. Several people had to go to the hospital, and the problem was believed to be related to a heater designed to keep heating oil from congealing in the winter months. City Hall dates back to 1926. What plan do you have to address the city's infrastructure and that building in particular?
Well, that's a good question, because what happened, Ms. Russell, was there was an issue that was related to a temporary fix that was put in place. I currently chair public property, and I have been working along with my committee members to look to get our infrastructure right. If you look at the parking garages, the steps, and different facilities around town, we have to have a plan of maintenance, not a plan of fix it as it gets broken. We need to keep our properties well maintained so they don't break down. And then you have to spend thousands of dollars the way we are right now for our parking garage. I just took over this committee, and I got the committee from different chair members, and no one told us, no one passed on the information. Again, stale leadership, not working with others, and failing to give us the information we need to do our job. So we are looking at that as actively currently.
Mr. Puzio, would you address that?
Yes, that expenditure, I believe, is it's an investment, but it's a minor expenditure. So, but it points to a bigger issue, which is the capital costs that this city puts out. Some people believe it's not something that really is big, but in reality, it takes up a large portion of our budget. And ensuring that we actually make the proper infrastructural investments is really key. And being someone who supports a sustainable future for our city, making sure that we make the right decisions when it comes to capital investments is very important, because those investments will last and be paid for the next 20, 30 years. With my leadership, I guarantee that those capital investments will be smart investments.
Mr. Armstead.
Well, there's no question that a lot of our infrastructure has deteriorated in this town. What we need to do is develop a 10 or 20-year plan and figure out how much money we're going to need to spend and capitalize it and move forward. But there's no easy fix when you have a town as old as Linden. All you can do is go a little at a time, and you must have a plan that will address it over a long time span.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Hale, could you address a question to Mr. Puzio?
Mr. Puzio, you so far tonight have been saying that you are going to make change, but you haven't really given any suggestions as to how you're going to get ratables to the city of Linden. Can you give us some examples, please?
Absolutely. The best example I can give is, the first example that I can give is ensuring that the proper types of businesses are brought in when we do have those decisions before us. The best example is, instead of bringing in a super Walmart, which provides below minimum wage jobs to people who aren't necessarily from Linden, we could be building a medical trauma center, which would use the helipad at the airport across the highway, would ensure that we wouldn't have more trucks on the roads and highways, and that we would have people with educated people with college degrees able to have the discretionary spending to spend in local businesses so that those businesses thrive and continue to stay here. Moreover, I would propose building a startup alley. One of the sectors of the U.S. economy which is growing exponentially is new startups, new small businesses that work in technology.
Thank you. Ms. Cosby-Hurley.
Yes, ma'am. How we get ratables in this town is we have to market. Right now, we have a Linden Economic Development Corporation, which is being led by a former policeman. That's a problem. We need to get professionals here, people who can understand our town, who know Linden. We sit in the middle of New York City, Jersey City. Again, we have a transit hub here. We have a great deal of potential. We need to work with people, organizations, and I have relationships with people already. We've built relationships. I'm working with Roselle. I just talked to the mayor about doing things here that can help both sides of St. George's Avenue. We need to be realistic, and we need to be ready to go day one. My running mate and I have already created relationships by which we can bring in engineers and other companies that can create structure and bring jobs to the city of Linden.
Mr. Armstead.
There's two things that we can do here. Again, as I mentioned earlier, the first thing we have to do, we have to address some of our construction code ordinances. First of all, we have a height restriction in Linden of 26 feet. We need to change the height restriction, and we need to allow homeowners to make changes to and repair their homes and not be penalized. We need to give them a tax abatement for upwards of 10 years so their homes will still be assessed as they are right now so that they aren't overtaxed. We don't need to punish them for making changes. The other thing we need to do is we need to take our existing structures that we have on like St. George Avenue, and we need to try to develop special improvement districts just like we did on Wood Avenue. Sometimes you just can't go ahead and have these massive developments come into town. You have to work with what you have. Okay? The same way we did a special improvement district on Wood Avenue, the same can be applied to St. George Avenue. A typical example is if you look at the Dunkin' Donuts owned by a gentleman in Roselle, look across the street, he has the Zumba Club. He's done a tremendous job at changing the facades. Now, I own property a few feet down, and he and I have been working with the other property owners to try to create what we call our own special improvement district that doesn't have city oversight, where we as property owners will make the changes and make things look nice.
Thank you. Mr. Hayden, can you address the question to Mr. Armstead?
Certainly. Currently, the city has a full-time mayor. I don't know, do you think that's necessary, and how would you handle the office if you get elected?
Well, let me say this. The office of the mayor is a full-time position. As a council member, I feel like I'm working a full-time job. I believe that our prior mayor, Gregorio, our current mayor, Rich Gabunka, and any future mayor should view that position as a full-time position, even though it's listed as part-time. You have to spend a full day in office. There's just so much work that has to be done, and it's a full-time job.
Ms. Crosby-Hurley.
Thank you. All of the elected officials here in Linden are, on paper, part-time. I'm currently a councilwoman who actually, I believe I work well over the part-time hours, which I would do and continue to do as the mayor. However, you must have a team of people prepared and ready to go and work with you. That's why the mayor has an aide, the mayor has a secretary, and we have so many department heads. The mayor must be able to work with everyone. Delegation is one important skill that any leader must possess, and I believe I have that.
Mr. Puzio, can you address it?
I do believe it's actually a job that requires a full-time, dedicated person. Someone like me, who has worked in the private sector, understands a demanding job, a job that you have to constantly be attentive to. I believe that I have the experience and the know-how to be constantly attentive to this position. So, considering the incompetence and the level to which this city has seen a decline over the last 8 years, I think it definitely requires someone who is going to treat the office seriously and give full attention to it. And I promise, with me as mayor, that will definitely happen.
Ms. Cosby-Hurling, 30 seconds.
Yes, ma'am. We've had 8 years of a mayor who's there from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m., and we still haven't gotten a rateable since Sam's Club. You need a mayor who cares about the city and a mayor who actually has business sense, but someone who actually can be where they need to be in the city when the time is right. We have council members who are here running for mayor, but oftentimes you call them and you don't get a call back, even when you're working on the same committee. We need people who are committed to this city. I'm a person who's committed to our town. I work very hard, and I will continue to do that with your support for mayor.
Thank you. Another round here. Ms. Hale, could you address a question to Mr. Puzio? Oh, no?
I already did.
You did?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's see
I've
then.
done that twice, but
Address one to Ms. Cosby-Hurling. It's a new round.
Oh,
Yeah.
Crosby-Hurling.
I'm just starting with you.
you're starting with,
Question for
Yeah.
Crosby-Hurling?
yeah, I need a minute. Can you?
Okay, then
Thanks.
Ms. Russell, do you have a question?
Okay, sure. And
And
who am
could
I
you-
addressing it to?
Let's start with Mr. Puzio.
Mr. Puzio, okay. I've covered Linden for a long time, and there's always been concerns about the area along St. George's Avenue with Roselle. In particular, a lot of drug traffic, a lot of crime. What plan, I guess I'm asking, do you have for that area?
Mr. Puzio.
So, yes, I agree that area, it deserves more attention. My plan would be to ensure that we look at new solutions and alternatives in terms of how we police high-risk, high-crime areas. The costs of hiring more and more police officers clearly are not sustainable. We already have problems with keeping the amount of police officers that we have right now. That's the reason why we had the issue that we had last year. If we ensure that we have a sustainable budget, if we ensure that we look at alternative solutions that actually look at making sure that we survey and police those areas effectively, potentially setting up cameras, perhaps. We can ensure that those areas become less crime-prone.
Thank you. Ms. Cosby-Hurley?
Yes. Mayor is essentially responsible for the police department. I have enjoyed a relationship with the police department since 2006 when I started Neighborhood Watch in the area of which you speak. We actually had a relationship with Roselle. We had a joint patrol, which we've lost under this mayor. We've had instances where the police would come and they would get out the cars and they would do foot patrol. We've lost that luxury. We need to bring back community policing programs, and we can do that. How we can do that is we need to get the managers in the police to have the right captains, the right lieutenants, and then we can bring in the foot patrols, because you know why? It's in the budget. We have a budget this year that we can actually hire police, women and men, to cover and make sure that they're there when we need them, not just in the instance of emergency. The crime actually has gone down because we have more patrol in that area, sector cars, and we need more citywide.
Mr. Armstead?
Well, there's no one solution that fits all when it comes to crime. You know, as I mentioned earlier in my career, I am a proponent of cameras, okay? I believe that if you're not doing anything illegal, you don't have anything to hide. There are some who disagree. The technology is as such that you can hook up a camera right to a cable signal. I believe that we have to partner with our homeowners, our local businesses, and schools, just so that we may monitor our city a little bit better. We can all be the ears and the eyes of our community. We can provide the police department great assistance when we're watching. Time and time again, you turn on a television set and you see where somebody has committed a horrendous crime in New York, and they catch the individual on camera, okay? Whenever there's a crime in our community, the first thing the police do is look for a camera to see if there's an extra set of eyes that have been there.
Thank you. If not, can we move on? And do you have a question for Mr. Armstead?
Yes, I do.
Okay, let's go for it.
Mr. Armstead, it's been widely reported, and by me, that this year you did not pay your taxes. And residents of Linden struggled to pay their taxes, and I know that you did pay your taxes, $40,000. However, at 12:30 today, you had not yet paid your sewer tax, which you sponsored, which you voted for. Can you give us an explanation why, when residents have to come up with this money and it's a strain on especially the senior citizens?
Well, let me just say this. First of all, I own several properties in town, okay? Some of which have been in my family for years, okay? We have some of our family members and some of our friends who really can't afford to stay in some of these properties, and we can't afford to raise their rents because they're family, they're seniors. On 1829 Southwood Avenue, I purchased a lot, two 25-foot lots that were generating approximately $600 a year in taxes because they were non-conforming lots. I put them together, okay? Since then, the city has received $115,000 in property taxes on that one particular lot. 626 Union Street, I purchased a condemned building that was only drawing $1,000 a year in property taxes. That's 2005. Since 2005, that property has generated the city over $80,000 a year. 734 Harrison Place, a house that I own. It was a one-family house. I raised it, tore it down, okay? If I had left it there, the city would have taken in $35,000 since 2006. But instead, since 2006, they've collected $70,000.
I'm
516 Carnegie Street.
Mr. Armstead, I know it's hard, but I'm going to have to stop you.
Mr. Armstead, you didn't explain to me why you didn't pay your sewer tax as of 12:30 today.
516 Carnegie Street.
But that's not answering my question.
Would have been received.
Why you didn't pay your sewer tax that you sponsored?
We'll give Mr. Armstead 30 seconds to answer sewer tax.
6,000. How much do I owe in sewer tax?
You should know that better than me, Mr. Armstead. You get the bill.
You told me I didn't pay it. How much could a sewer tax be?
It doesn't matter
Okay.
how much it is.
1207 Lincoln
It matters
Street.
that you didn't pay
We had a
it.
condemned house there.
Do these people pay their sewer tax?
$10,000.
Okay.
If we left it, we
Sorry.
paid over $50,000 since we redid that building, and if we had left
You
it
haven't
condemned,
answered my question.
it would have been
Enough.
$7,000. So we are investors in this town.
Well, you better
Thank
invest in
you.
paying your sewer tax
We are-
because
Thank you.
those
Ms.
people are
we are
Ms.
paying.
investors
Hale
in this
and
town.
Mr. Armstead, thank you. No more crosstalk, thank you. I know it's difficult. I'm going to ask you, Ms. Cosby Hurling, your thoughts on personal tax payments.
It's a struggle for all of us here in Linden. I'll be the first to admit that it is very difficult. However, those property owners here in town, like myself, who have mortgages, we don't have a choice whether or not we pay our taxes. We have to pay them. So we don't decide what we pay and what we don't pay. While I did not vote for the garbage tax, I paid it. Councilman Armstead voted for it and he didn't pay it. That's unfortunate. Unpaid taxes, what they do is they lead to service cuts in public safety. If I'm elected the mayor, I'll make sure that our department managers will aggressively pursue tax evaders. It's very important. It's a violation of the public trust. You're collecting a check from the same city, and you're not paying your fair share of the taxes.
Would I pay over
Thank you.
$40,000 a year?
And later, Mr. Puzio, would you comment on payment of personal taxes?
Absolutely. Payment of taxes is key to ensuring that the city actually has revenues to work with. So there's no excuse for not paying your taxes or not paying sewer because essentially the government can't function without the money that you pay. It's the bond that we all agree to participate in. I've always paid my taxes. I've always paid the different fees that we are required to pay. And I believe that, for example, the garbage fee was essentially part of our tax. After spending over $40 million in surplus, it wasn't enough. The people who were on council, they went ahead and said, well, here's also a garbage fee since there's a cap. And in essence, over $1.7 million was what was raised in taxes last year. When I'm mayor, I want to make sure that we don't have those types of tax increases.
Ms. Cosby Hurling, you want 30 seconds?
Yes, please. The garbage fee is a slick way of going around the 2% cap. I did not vote for that. I don't think it's the right way to go. When we get a new leadership in City Hall, our first job is going to be to sit down and look at a way how to get rid of, repeal the garbage tax. There's other ways of bringing in revenue. There are other cost savings that we can have, not on the backs of our taxpayers.
30 seconds, Mr. Armstead.
I would be very interested to see if anybody could put forth an idea how we could eliminate the garbage tax. We all talked about the garbage tax, but no one put any ideas forward how we could eliminate it. Aside from that, I reiterate my point. When you don't pay your taxes, they put a lien on your property and they take your property. I don't have any outstanding liens on any property in town. I mean, I may have paid it later a time or two, but there are no liens on any property owned by Derek Armstead in this town.
Thank you. Now we're going to go to Mr. Hayden for a question, and could you direct it to Ms. Cosby Hurling, please?
Sure. This could be a little bit broader, too. You're running for the Democratic nomination. All three of you have different amounts of experience within the local government, some longer than others. Could you say how, well, at the same time, the residents of the city for the last two mayoral elections have chosen an independent? How are you as a Democrat going to reach out with your experience? And is your experience, have you been there too long, or you haven't been there long enough? Can you talk about that and how that's going to work for you in reaching out to all the residents if you win the nomination?
In 1 minute.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
I've only been on council for 3 years, and I've been making a lot of differences in my community. I've only been here for 3 years, and before I got here, there was not an ordinance that would protect our children. Now, every time someone wants to work in the city of Linden and they work with our children, they're required to get a background check. That wasn't here before I became a councilwoman. We also have a hiring policy that says all city jobs have to be publicly posted if they're not promotional opportunities. That was not here before I got here. The way I'm trying to reach out to the community at large is to get my record out there, a positive, progressive record. People who have been here for many years can't tell you what they've done or accomplished in all that time. I've only been here a short time and done a lot. And my goal is to reach the Democrats at large with my teammates. I'm running with George Alvarez, Gretchen Hickey, Monty Brooks, and we're running on column A, the endorsed regular Democratic column. And we together will get the word out.
Mr. Puzio, could you address that?
Yes. To begin with, I'm from Linden. I've lived my entire life in Linden. If someone doesn't know me, I'm sorry. This is a town of 41,000 people. It's very large. And so it's easy to, be looked over, especially when it comes to different positions for committees, for, let's say, the Development Corporation, which I applied to and was not chosen. But I have other types of experience. I am trilingual. I speak Polish, Spanish, as well as English, obviously. And I have worked as a financial analyst and an economist at Bloomberg LP. So I think that beyond working on council and working for the county, as other people have done, I think there's notable experience that someone such as myself will bring that will ensure a victory for the Democrats this fall.
Thank you. Mr. Armstead.
Yes, well, my family has been in this town for 90 years, and with any luck, we'll be here for another 90 years. My father's 84 years old. He was born in a house right here in Linden. We don't have any problem reaching across lines, be it ethnic, religious. Everybody knows the Armstead family. They know we're decent people. Mike says he speaks a couple of languages. I do too. And I'm very proud of my association with the various families in this town. And when I ran for mayor, it was those families who came out and supported me. Again, I won the Democratic primary against a whole lot of money, and I nearly won the general election against a whole lot of money, and I have every intention on winning again. And I will represent all in this town. And the Armsteads have been a family who's gotten along with all and everybody in this town, and will continue to do so.
Ms. Cosby-Hurling, 30 seconds.
Yes, ma'am. Again, I'm just going to ask that all of the Democrats for the June primary check our records and see what each of us as Democrats have done to better the life of our community here in Linden. It's not about osmosis or how long you've been here or where you were born. It's about what you have and what you can do. And I believe that I've done a lot. I care about our town, and that's what's most important. And I am reaching out to the Democrats at large, but I can only be in so many places at one time, so I'm depending on my teammates. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Puzio.
I would
30 seconds.
Thank you. I would actually disagree with that point. I think showing the fact that someone is willing to sacrifice living elsewhere, somewhere that might be more advantageous to that person, proves the fact of how much they care about their community. I've worked as a Democratic committee man, and I've worked as a political activist on different issues in this town for the last few years. And I'm willing to stay here. I want to live here. I want to make sure that this town is better for my kids when I have them. I want to make sure this town is better for the people that I know and I've grown up with, the people that I can call my neighbors and friends.
All right. That's the end of the questions, and I really do want to thank the reporters for their cogent questions, and we're going to now go on for the closing remarks, which are 2 minutes for each of the candidates. And I would like you to summarize what you bring and why they should vote for you instead of the other two. And we're going to go in reverse order, so the first speaker this time will be Michael Puzio. 2 minutes, Mr. Puzio.
So in my closing remarks, I would just like to say that ensuring that we have objective leadership in the future is key. As this race has shown, there is leverage that people are held that is held against them because they work for the county or for the city. Ensuring that we have a mayor that doesn't work for either ensures that we actually get the things done that work towards our interests. I'm someone who is a progressive Democrat. I am qualified because I have a college education. I'm someone who has roots in this town. I'm not from Newark. I'm from Linden, New Jersey. I'm someone who believes in the future of this city, in its affordability, and its sustainability. We are going to face such hard issues in the future. Everybody knows that the revenues at the state level aren't doing well, and we're going to get the brunt of that. We're going to get the brunt of global warming because of storms like Hurricane Sandy. We're going to get the brunt of more crime because of what's going on. And I want to make sure to bring the new solutions, the new vision that is necessary to make sure that Linden is a town that everybody wants to live in the 21st century. Thank you.
And thank you. And next will be Roshana Cosby-Hurling.
Thank you very much. And thank you again to the Linden Democratic Club, the Board of Education, the League of Women Voters, and the distinguished journalists here tonight. Residents, we appreciate your time and coming out just to hear us tonight. The city has been going on a downward spiral for the past 8 years, even longer if you consider how many times people have been here. We need change, and we have to work together. We can continue to be on the path that we are on, which is regular tax increases, dysfunction at City Hall, diminished service cuts. Or we can work to improve our city. We cannot pay for trash. We weren't paying for a garbage tax before. That's not the way to go. Our taxes are already inflated. As the mayor, my job will be to chart a new path for Linden, a better path for Linden. Working with the council members, we have to rein in the property taxes. As the mayor, I'm going to chart a smart course for redevelopment here in our town. Unlike the current administration, who continue to ignore relationships, I have a history and I've proven that I can build private and public relationships. Here in town, I was able to get a nonprofit to service our community, bringing computers to the rec center, bringing education to the children and to the families. We need someone who's willing and able to work with other folks here and get Linden back on the right course. For far too long, we've had employees told, you have to do more with less. That's not fair. We need to bring in more efficiency in the departments, bring in training for these employees, and that's going to help our services. We, again, can make Linden a community that people want to live in, they want to work in. And my job as mayor would be to work with everyone to get that done. I'm running with George Alvarez, Column A Democrats, and we hope to have your support. Thank you.
And thank you. The final speaker is Derek Armstead.
Good evening, and thank you all for coming. One thing I'd like to say is whenever you have a problem, you have to figure out where it started. And to fix it, you've got to turn it around, undo the things that you did. Here in Linden, several years ago, we began allowing our public workforce to live out of town. Under our current Democratic leadership, our Democratic chairman, they hire teachers who don't live in town. Now, I know there's a time when you can't find a qualified teacher when they're specialized, but I think the true way to turn the town around is to start with its residents first. I won't rest until every position that's available in this town is offered to a Linden resident first. That's everything from our janitors, our teachers, our police officers, our firemen, our maintenance workers. You cannot rebuild a town without putting its people first. And that is the problem here in Linden. We've allowed too many of our public workforce to live out of town. We're going to rebuild Linden. We've got to start with its people first. And I will be committed as a mayor to making sure and ensuring that every qualified person who applies for a position who lives in Linden will be given first consideration. I go throughout this whole town. I see names of people who I've known all my life, Chaybacks, McGee's, who've applied, young women and men who've gone to college, who live in this community. But when they come to apply for a job as a teacher in our own town, they can't get hired. And I will not rest. I will not rest until that policy is reversed. I will do whatever is necessary to try to convince our police and our firemen to come back home, even if it means giving them tax abatements. That's right. If they are public safety people, they want to stay, we'll do whatever is humanly possible to make them stay. That's the Linden I dream of, a Linden where all of us who live here work here.
Thank you. And I want to bring your attention, ladies and gentlemen, that these three people are going to be on the ballot, and it's now your job, after having listened to them, to go and vote for one of the three. But they've done a good job, and we really want to appreciate it. I think thank you very much. Good work.
Thank you.
It's not easy to ask the question. If you be patient now, we're going to ask the candidates to get up and give up their positions so that we can then bring on the council president, the three council president candidates. Your three candidates for the Democratic position for Linden City Council President are ready, and it's been hard for them to sit here, so they're a little anxious. So if you don't mind and you can take your seats, we'll start again. I need a couple of timekeepers down here. I need two. Okay. We're going to have, the format's going to be very similar, and I really appreciate the people from the school who are doing the taping for this, because it will then allow the rest of the people in Linden to be able to see it on TV and get this information so that they too will be able to vote knowledgeably on June 4th. So I'd like to introduce the candidates who are here this evening, who are running for the position of Linden Council President. And again, you get to vote for one. And they, again, have chosen randomly how they will open and be first speakers. The way to my left is Carmen Sanchez Southward, and to her left is Jorge Alvarez, and then we have Mr. Richard Pichel. Correct? Okay. And they too will have an opening statement for 2 minutes, and Ms. Southward is going to start. So, Ms. Southward, for 2 minutes, why should they vote for you?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Carmen Southward. I'm a lifelong resident of Linden. My entire family lives here. I'm married, and I have a 12-year-old daughter. I do not work for the county, and I am not beholden to anyone. I am an experienced bilingual manager with a background in loss prevention and fraud, human resources, and most recently, education. I hold advanced degrees and several certifications. I currently supervise a department for a local school district which has a $19 million budget. I believe that I am the best qualified both educationally and professionally to hold the position of City Council President. Just like you, I am affected by higher taxes, increased crime, and decreased quality of life. And by the way, crime has increased. It has not decreased. I'm here because I care. I care about you. I care about me. I care about all my friends and family that live in Linden. I'm also not afraid of accountability, and I will hold others accountable, and I will hold them accountable publicly. I could give you some examples of lack of accountability currently happening today in our city, and one of which I was outraged about, and it's the conditions of our animal control facility. They're deplorable. No one on City Council took accountability for that issue when the residents from other cities came in to talk about it. It's our money. We'll insist and demand that we're part of the process, that our voices are heard, and that action is taken. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next speaker is Jorge Alvarez.
Thank you again to all the organizers for giving us a chance to this candidate forum. I appreciate the opportunity to discuss our issues facing our city. My name is George Alvarez. I am running for the City Council President on the Column A Democratic team. I come to you as a parent, homeowner, taxpayer, concerned about our city, disappointed by the way our city conducts its businesses, and outraged by the tax burden being placed on all of the Linden families. I came to this country at the age of 10. When I graduated high school, I went into the United States Navy to serve my country. When I got out of the Navy, I went part-time to night school, and I acquired my bachelor's degree in civil engineering. I have learned that success can only be achieved through hard work, because that's all I'll ever know. It's hard work. As council president, I will have 3 priorities. First, I will work all the time to get property taxes under control. They're way out of control right now, especially with the garbage tax that has been given to us. In the past 8 years, our city taxes have almost doubled. That's embarrassing, and we can do a lot better if we go through the whole budget line by line. Those who know me know I'm for the kids. Anything that I do is always for the kids. I'm known as Coach George. Linden can do a better job improving parks and recreational opportunities for all of our children. The city has so much to offer, but we're being limited by our own imaginations. I believe we can expand recreation opportunities for all of our kids. Finally, as council president, I will make sure our city conducts its business in a dignified manner. Now, that should we assume that we've had too many instances over the past few years where the political powerful have hijacked our city's agendas. That has left our residents confused, frustrated, and with no expectations of what's going to happen next. That must change, that will change.
Thank you.
On June 3rd, okay, that's fine.
It's the way it goes.
Okay.
2 minutes. The next speaker is Richard Pichelle.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for the opportunity to participate in this meet and greet with the Linden residents. The citizens of Linden have always been and will always be my top priority. Currently, there are too many obstacles preventing us from flourishing as a city we once were, a safe Linden with a government that focuses on the residents. For too long, we've been spiraling in a downward path, no hope for improvements. As council president, I will be sure to take everyone's concerns into consideration as we turn the city around for the better. With my police background, my previous experience as councilman, I feel that I have what it takes to make Linden a safe place for our children, and I have the drive to stand up against any political pressures that would try to tear down the city. My goal is to stabilize taxes, eliminate the garbage tax, introduce ratables, and follow through on bringing into our city a business administrator. I am not your typical politician. I will not stand here and make empty promises. I will make sure what I say and what I ask, what is asked of me, gets done. Tonight will be a start of a new era, a fresh start for this city. I know that we can unite to make Linden a better place. Over the past years, we have seen hopes and dreams diminished by false promises and weak leadership. This has to come to an end. As Linden residents, you need to take the first steps toward this positive change by voting June 3rd in a primary election. Every single person's voice is important, and if elected, I will make sure your voice is heard. Tonight, let's start and bring Linden back by moving forward. We can write a new chapter and meet these challenges head-on together. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'm going to draw from the questions that the reporters had submitted to me on their way out. And I'm going to start with you, please, Ms. Southward. You may recall that there has been a discussion before. Do you think there should be a change in Linden's form of government? Does Linden need council members? What are your thoughts on a possible change in form of government? In 1 minute.
I think there is some merit to a consideration of change in government. However, I feel that the power to make things happen should lie amongst the people and spread out over 11 members of council. I think that it's a fairer process, it's a more democratic process, it ensures more voices are heard and more discussions are had. I'm not going to totally discount that there could be some merit to changing the form of government. Personally, I would not support it. I think it's a fairer process when things are laid out over a bigger group of people. More fairness.
Mr. Alvarez, your thoughts on a change in form of government?
Thank you. Is there merit? Sure there is. But that's not the problem. The problem is leadership. We can change the form of government. If we still have the lack of leadership, then we're not going to go anywhere. What we have to do is we have to realize what we have. The type of government that we have right now is a person-to-person government. Yes, we have 10 wards and we have 10 councilmen, councilwomen, that they deal with the people on a regular basis. We have a lot of these councilmen and councilwomen that get to know their whole neighborhood and get to know their whole ward. What we do need is leadership. It's not a change of government per se, but it's the leadership that is going to take us to the next era. Thank you.
Mr. Purcell.
Well, the funny thing is, when I was councilman, one of my constituents wrote a letter on change of form of government, and that was John Langen. And I was in total agreement with him because, when he wrote it, I would have liked to leave that up to the people to decide. You know, if you're going to change the form of government, you're going to have to change the way the area is set up. Then you're going to have to figure in a cost of how much it's going to cost. Then you're going to have 4 council members and 3 at large. So it's good to change the form of government, but like everybody was saying too, it should be up to the people. If the citizens of Linden want it changed, it's their town, and they should decide on it. It shouldn't be left up to us. It should be left up to them. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to start with you, Mr. Alvarez, on the next question, and it's the heavy-duty one. Taxes are a major issue across New Jersey as well as in Linden. Do you have any specific plans for handling city expenses and controlling taxes?
Well, there's 2 points here I want to make. First, once I come in as council president, I do work very closely with my partner, Roshana Cosby-Hurling, and what we're going to do is go through the budget line by line. There's a lot of expenditure that's not needed. Second, as everybody knows, or everybody who knows me, I'm a civil engineer. Being a civil engineer, not only I work with a lot of people that are willing to put money into a lot of new things, but I also deal with the other side of the people who are the ones who build them, the contractors. And in the middle, you have not only the county, the state, the DEP, DOT, a bunch of other letters which I have to deal with. What we have here between Roshana and I is we are business people. We are a team that we're able to talk with everybody, work with everybody, and be able to bring money into the city.
Ms. Southward.
I think that poor decisions are being made due to lack of leadership, and that's why we're in the situation that we're in now with our taxes. The projected tax revenue for 2014 just from the garbage tax, I believe, is $1.7 million in the budget. It's shameful. I think that when you have the right leadership, and you do go through a budget line by line, but with the right leadership, there are certainly opportunities to pass savings back on to the homeowners. That's my position on it.
Okay, Mr. Pichel.
Okay, thank you. Taxes are high in the city, and they're high all over. But with our plan, myself and Derek Armstead, You have to have a plan in place. You need a short-term plan, a long-term plan. And you're going to have to work with the residents of your city. You got a lot of qualified people here where you could talk to them. They're big businessmen over in New York or around the state. Talk to them, sit down with them. What can we do for the city of Linden? Can we bring in ratables? Who can we get? What companies can we get in here? And that's what council's lacking. Right now, everybody talks about a budget. The budget's a zero-based budget, and you start from the bottom and you work your budget up. This year, it's $100 million, our city budget, and that's outrageous. We need ratables. We need help. We need somebody on council like me and Derek Armstead, where we hold everybody accountable for every cent they spend and every dollar that's brought into this city. Thank you.
Mr. Alvarez wants 30 seconds.
Yes, thank you. It seems like the three of us are in accord with what we want to do. We want to go through the budget, we want to bring ratables, and yes, we want to do a lot of things, and it's a lot of words just being said. The truth is, I don't work for the city. I am not a councilman, and I was able to bring money from the county that was going to be spent somewhere else. I brought that money that was already spent in order to build something for our kids in way of a soccer field. A lot of money that wasn't going to come into Linden. If I can do this for something as plain as recreation, just imagine what I can do with Ms. Cosby for our whole city.
Ms. Southwood would like 30 seconds.
Accountability. Good leadership and accountability. So a person says that they're going to review something. Let's make that public and hold them accountable and have them show us exactly what they are changing. I noticed in the budget there's an expense for $400,000 for a new roof for City Hall. That's nice. At the expense of the taxpayers? Is that absolutely necessary? And does it take $400,000 to put a roof on City Hall? I think that accountability is key. You can give a lot of lip service, but show us the numbers and show us exactly what you're going to do. And when you don't do it, we want to see that as well.
30 seconds for you,
I'll
Mr.
make it
Pichel.
quick. Thank you. I could show how good my leadership is. My first year on council, I was put in charge of PureGen, and we knew that wasn't going anywhere. But I looked back and saw how the city failed on projects. So I put in place a payment system where the first year I brought in $100,000 into the city, and the second year I brought in $150,000 into the city. So you got to look at how the city failed and don't do it that way anymore. You know, you work to bring ratables in. You have to look at how you failed and don't do it that way. Look the other way and work with the professionals that you bring into this city, especially a business administrator.
I'm going to have to say no, Ms. Southwood. Only one rebuttal
okay.
per question.
No problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's the way. You'll get another chance.
No problem.
Mr. Pichel, I'd like to start with you. How does a full-time mayor and city council president work together to ensure that the services are provided in the city?
Well, you have to work. Working together is a team. You have to be a team. You have to bring the services into the city. You have to make sure everybody's accountable. You have to sit as a good leader. You have to sit down with your department heads and you tell them what you need, what you want done, and you have to follow up. In the city, I noticed when I was councilman, you give a task to the council members who are chair of that department. You give them a task, but it's never followed through. Nobody knows if that task is completed. But as council president, I will make sure, once I give a task out, I will give a time limit for them to come back to me with a written report, every task that's given out.
Mr. Alvarez, how would you propose that the mayor and the president work together?
Well, working together, we're talking about we need a coach. Who better than the soccer coach right here? And that's what I do. It's very good what Mr. Pichel said, and I can read through the same list. The truth is, Ms. Cosby and I, we work together. We work together presently. I do a lot of things for the kids. I need something. I do not hesitate to make a phone call, and she makes the right phone calls that needs to be done. We work together in whatever we need. I work with another lady that's running for the 10th Ward, Ms. Hickey. She does the Culture and Heritage Committee. She needs something, I'm right there for her. When Sandy hit, which was probably one of the lowest points that I can remember here in the city, got a phone call from Ms. Hickey. We need to do this. No hesitation. We work together. We work as a team. And for that, what we need? Leadership.
Ms. Southworth.
So if you've been paying close attention, you know that the city council and the mayor do not work well together. So it's nice to hear that everyone will work together, but it doesn't always work that way. And precisely in this form of government that Linden has, the city council president position is key because it sets the agenda. So it's important to have cohesiveness there. And I just need to follow up. This is the previous question, but it deals with accountability. Today, a mayoral candidate here today and a city council president here today, and I won't name names, but talking about accountability, were asked to vote on an ordinance that would track the salary, track the hours of 5 attorneys that work part-time for the city who make $100,000 a year. And those 2 candidates voted no. So you know what? Put your money where your mouth is. Accountability, show me.
Thank you. No, I'm sorry. Any more rebuttals?
Well, yeah, I got one.
Yes,
quick.
okay.
Well, everybody talks about leadership skills. I didn't mention one, everybody talks about, like, George being a coach. I'm a lieutenant with the county police, but one skill I have was I was elected member of the National Bomb Squad Commanders Advisory Board, where I represented bomb squads from Maine to West Virginia, and that's a leadership position. They came to me with their concerns for research and development and training. I brought those concerns to our federal partners and their vendors and had them made sure they got the training and the tools they needed. Excuse me. That's what I'm going to do for the city. I'm going to work 1,000% and use the resources that are available to me to make this city move forward.
Mr. Alvarez.
Yes, I
30
agree
seconds.
I agree with Rich, with Mr. Puchal. Yes, when it comes to dealing with bombs, you have to make sure that people follow you and you're a leader. We don't have that problem here in Linden. Our problem here is we need businessmen. Okay, not police officers, nothing against you, Rich, okay, but we need businessmen. We need businessmen that can not only talk to people who are going to invest money in Linden, to contractors, and to the average person who's going to work here. That's what we need. We need somebody who can sit with anybody at any time and be able to talk business.
Yes, Ms. Southward.
Why should we pat each other on the back, and why should you praise us when we've done something good? You know what? You shouldn't. And I shouldn't praise the council when they do something good, because that's their job. There is a combined salary of $200,000 amongst all council members. Do your job. You did a good job? Great. What's next? What can you do for Linden tomorrow? Move on. We shouldn't focus on what was done today. I don't have a history with you because I've never been on the council, but I have a history in business. I hope you give me the opportunity to show you.
Thank you. I'm going to ask the next question to you, starting with you, Ms. Southward. How will you implement and see to it that Linden gets more good ratables?
Well, my background's not in business, so I'm not going to sit here and give you fluff. I think it starts with good leadership, and that's going to start with a good working relationship with our mayor. I think that it's very important to allow the small businessman to survive. So I do not think that the answer is a super Walmart where the GM property was, because you're going to hire folks at minimum wage. In fact, Walmart just gave their executives, their top executives, all a raise during these hard economic times and continue to pay people minimum wage. So the answer is a good working relationship and help the small businessman survive, reassess home values, and get the big businesses to stop getting tax breaks when the little guys like you and I are paying more. They have the money to pay the lawyers to get their taxes reduced. We don't, and we don't have the time.
Mr. Alvarez, how would you improve ratables for Linden?
Well, first let me say, I like Carmen's honesty. She says she doesn't know about business, but I like what she's saying. The only difference is I am a businessman. I deal as a civil engineer, not only with a lot of investors. We're talking about people who are coming in saying, look, I got $4, $5, $6 million, and I want to invest in this. You make it work. And on the other end, I have contractors, I have to build it. And in the middle, I have the city, the town, I have the state, a lot of ordinances that we have to follow. We have still some land, it's brown land here in Linden, but still land that we can bring some industry. It's just a matter of talking to the right people. And that's what I'm going to do with Ms. Cosby. We are business people, and that's what we need here.
Mr. Pichel, ratables.
Tough one to go over that one, huh? Ratables. Well, you're going to have to work. Like I said before, you're going to have to work with your people, qualified people that are in the city. You have a lot of qualified people who work in New York. I spoke to one person at his house, and he said to bring ratables in, he could vet he has a company that could vet a business administrator. I want somebody to come in here. The council voted for a business administrator. They're supposed to find one, vet one, and get the proper person in here. We don't want a business administrator that's political. We don't want one that's involved with any political party. We want one that's comes here with an open mind that could bring in ratables to the city and get the tax burden off the residents and off our seniors. Thank you.
Thank you. 30 seconds, Ms. Southworth.
I don't want a business administrator because that's another salary. And if you look at our budget and look at the salaries, it's atrocious. The people that are getting paid today need to do the job, or we need to fire them and find people who can. We do not need to add a salary to our budget so that you and I pay more. We have people in place that need to perform and be held accountable. And if they cannot, bye-bye.
Mr. Alvarez.
I'm in the perfect position here. I disagree with Ms. Southworth and I agree with Mr. Pichel. I'm right in the middle. I do believe we need a business administrator, somebody who is business worthy and somebody who can run the things day to day. But, Rich, as you know, the business administrator will run the things. It is the mayor and, of course, the council president, who I'm going to be the mayor's right hand, that we're going to be bringing the business in. The business administrator will run things on a day-to-day basis. And, of course, we will have to get into the budget and be able that we can afford this. We're not going to be raising the budget simply to hire somebody else. We have to make sure the budget fits what we need. Thank you.
Mr. Pichel, do you have any further comments?
Well, yes. Like George was saying, or Mr. Alvarez.
George.
That a business administrator, when they come in, I have to agree we need one because it's $100 million. You can't even run a $100 million business. Nobody on council could run a $100 million business. We need that person to come in here to streamline the city, and that's where this, like Mrs. Southward said, if you're going to streamline the city, you're going to probably eliminate jobs or through attrition. That money you're saving will go towards a business administrator's salary.
Thank you. I'm going to ask a question, Mr. Alvarez. It's quite different and it's not easy. What would you propose to do to protect residents of Linden, particularly Tremley Point, from possible flooding resulting from what is known as the Soil Safe Project? Is there something that the City Council can do?
Well, as a civil engineer, not a soils engineer, but a civil engineer, we will have to research exactly what the problem is. Now, there's a certain part of Tremley that got hit very hard with Sandy, and I saw it because I was brought down there and we were trying to help the people there and spend a few days doing so. But we do have to see what type of soils it has if we're ever going to build there or rebuild there. What I will propose is what the state wants to do is buy the land, knock the house down, make it into green acres, and then make sure that the people not only get relocated, but they get relocated within Linden. I like the people I work with. I like the people. I like the parents from the kids. I deal with hundreds and hundreds of parents on a regular basis, and I want to keep everybody here. And Linden can change, and we can fix things.
Mr. Pichel, can you address the flooding, possible flooding in Tremley Point?
Well, it's a tough issue, you know, where the houses are situated and everything, and the waterways, and that was, you know, what they call it, the worst storm ever. The only way you're going to find out the problem is that you have to sit down and work with your state and federal partners who know that type of situation, how to deal with it, through probably moving the residents out, like George said, moving them out. We have numerous houses for sale in the city. We could help them with that, maybe with some tax breaks. They're going to have to go down there and do soil samples, and they're going to have to be sent out and see how, if it could be built on, or like he was saying, it's going to have to be green acres. But you have to definitely work with your state and federal partners on that one.
Ms. Southward.
Well, that's a tough question, and I'm certainly not a civil engineer, and I don't have a specialty on how to prevent flooding. I think there's a lot of common sense to be looked at here. I mean, certainly as council president, you would work with your mayor, you'd work with your commissions, with all your committees, and you'd work with the state and federal government and partner with them and see what the issue is. If your home's in a flood zone, chances are it's going to flood. I mean, that's the reality. So could things be done to protect the residents? I'm sure that there could be improvements made to the infrastructure surrounding those homes, and that should certainly be looked at. We should look at what we have in the budget for those types of emergencies. I know that this budget had something built in, probably nowhere near. I don't think any town is prepared for another Hurricane Sandy, so that's not a dig at the budget, but I think that there is certainly an opportunity to partner with our entire staff to take a look at that, and improvements, I'm sure, could be made given the funding to infrastructure.
Mr. Alvarez.
If anybody took a look at what happened at Tremley, a lot of parts that were not in the flood zone got flooded because it was such a surge of water. That was not the problem. The problem was basically maybe rebuild some structures and get things to try to avoid this in the future, but that costs money. What we have to do, and Mr. Bushell mentioned it, is work with the state and the federal government. We will have to work with the Army Corps of Engineers. Now, who better to do that than a civil engineer or a lady that not only works with me on whatever I need, but we have already established people that we work with in the county, in the state, and even in the federal government.
Thank you. I'm going to ask the next question, starting with you, Mr. Pichel. What changes can the city, or has the city made to be better prepared for a future Sandy? What would you propose?
Well, you have to get all your public safety people together, emergency management, fire, police, sit down and see what happened in the past and work off of that. You have to put out an alert system. That's they lacked in Linden, and like a first alert to notify the residents what's going on. You have to make sure you're prepared for any type of emergency. You have the equipment that's needed. You could work with, you have mutual aid with the surrounding towns, and you definitely have to get some grant money because the equipment that's needed for search and rescue and everything is expensive. So you have to get the grant money, put it in place, and have training for all the emergency service people. And plus, you have to train your residents too, because they have to know what's going to happen in an emergency.
Okay, Mr. Alvarez, how would you propose that the city be prepared for such an emergency?
All right, I see a lot of young people here, but those my age. Do you guys remember when the bell used to go off and we were in school and we will have our drills because the bomb was coming? What is wrong with doing the same thing on the city-wide? Not for the people, but our first responders. If we have a storm coming, we have to be ready. So they should be trained, like Rich said, but not only trained, what about doing it on a regular basis? Go out, somebody pulls the bell, you go out and you test yourself to see if you are ready. Money for our OEM, get ready for what we need, get the police ready for any type of disaster that we might encounter. We were not ready for Sandy. I really don't think we're ready for another Sandy. And are we ready for anything else? We have to look into this closely, and we have to get our first responders ready.
Ms. Southward.
It really goes back to an issue of leadership. However, having said that, Linden is not going to come up with the magic answer on how to be prepared for another Superstorm Sandy. It can try, and just like other towns are trying, but the state was not prepared for Superstorm Sandy, and I don't know that anyone can ever be fully prepared. DeWitt Terrace floods when it rains more than, half an inch. And my whole street floods, and that's not Superstorm Sandy. And I'm not sure what's been done to improve that. I mean, sure, they clean the sewers and go in there, every now and then. So it goes back to leadership. The leadership in place works with all the departments, examines the infrastructure, plans and puts money aside in the budget for those types of emergencies, and continues to go through that process time over time as improvements are made.
Mr. Alvarez, 30 seconds.
Well, obviously, I do agree with what they have said, but one thing I will add to this is one of the biggest problems we have was a lack of communication because there was no electricity. We have to partner ourselves with some type of radio station or someone who will be able to get a radio and be able to listen out there and pass and transmit what we need to know as homeowners. Everybody is always required to have a radio, have batteries, have water in case of an emergency. And the reason for the radio is because you have to listen what the people out there, your first responders, are doing. And I think that's one of the things we should do, and maybe work into bringing a radio company in here into Linden.
Thank you. Ms. Southworth.
I just want to rebut, and it's to the point of lack of communication. There certainly was a lack of communication. But there's a lack of communication across the board on the city council. They're not talking to each other. They're not talking to the people that work for them, and they're not holding them accountable. And the people that work for them aren't talking to the city council. We have 5 commissioners on the Board of Health, a vice president, a president, 11 city council members, and no one knew that animals, obviously I'm an animal lover, at our animal control facility were not being euthanized humanely, were not being given vet care for 7 days, attempts weren't being made to contact people who perhaps had lost pets, and then we had an employee arrogantly say to a resident, I deal with rough areas. Define what a rough area is to me.
Ms. Southworth. It's just the next question I was going to address to you would be, how would you improve communication between the city council and the residents and taxpayers?
Right. Improved communication starts with being the voice for the people. So you tell us, that's why you pay city council representatives. That's why you elect them and pay their salaries. You tell us what you want us to talk about, what you want us to set on the agenda, what ordinances. You make recommendations to us. We don't mastermind everything up there. That's not our job. We work for you, to serve you. So you tell us, and then it's our job to be your voice. That's where it begins, and that's what's not happening. Everyone complained about the garbage tax. Garbage tax got passed. Why? Was your voice heard? Mine certainly wasn't. So there's obviously a breakdown in communication, but it starts right at the bottom with the residents to the city council, and that's where I could make a difference.
Mr. Alvarez, how would you improve communication between residents and the council?
Well, one thing that we have, and that is the type of government that we have, is our council people go out and they deal with the residents from the ward on a regular basis. For example, we have Ms. Yamakaitis, 8th Ward Council. Everybody knows her. It's her little neighborhood. She has Easter hunts for the kids. She does a bunch of stuff. And we have a bunch of other councilmen that do the same thing. We have to be able to open not only ourselves to listen to everybody, but at the same time, we have to be able to relate it back. I'm not in council, and as it is, I try to communicate through the things that we have available. We have the internet available, we have obviously Facebook available, but I still think that if we can somewhat partnership up with the radio station, in case the electricity goes off on a big storm, on an emergency, when it's needed, then that's what we need, because we'll have no electricity.
Okay, Mr. Puchel?
Thank you. The voice of the people. The voice of the people should be heard through the council member in that ward. They should, the council member should approach those people, should be available, should be transparent, should be there all the time for them. They should have a contact number. They should return calls every time. If you don't return calls, you don't walk around, you don't talk to your residents, you shouldn't be there.
A 30-second,
Did I do 30 seconds or was I a minute?
No, you had a minute,
I don't know.
but I thought you were
What are we
done,
doing?
and I was,
Oh, okay.
we'll ask Ms. Southworth,
All right.
okay?
30 seconds,
Yeah.
I promise. So where's the breakdown in communication? So the council, the council person for that ward talks to you, you tell them how you feel, and why doesn't that make it back to the council, and why doesn't it make it onto the agenda? Where's the breakdown? You need a city council president who will set the agenda, who will bring some decorum to the circus that we've had for the last 8 years. I'm sorry to say, but that's true. And Mrs. Yamakaitis, I'm sorry, I don't think she's here today, and not to, direct this to her, but she's the one that said that she would look into what was happening at animal control.
Hey,
And you know what? Thank you, but I would have said, if the pictures you are showing me are true, not only am I going to look into it, I am holding someone accountable. It's sinful. That's what I would have done. But
Mr.
thank you.
Alvarez.
Thank you.
We're talking about communication, and we do have to be able to speak and listen to everybody, because everybody has something to say. Sometimes it's not the right thing, and sometimes you don't want to listen. For that point comes in who you're going to vote for and who's going to be able to listen to you. Okay. Those of you who know me, I'm not in council, but you know me that I'm very involved not only with the kids, but with the community. From all the soccer to the Cultural Heritage Committee to Halloween. Everybody comes to my house for Halloween. And I thank my son for that, because he runs the whole thing, but that's the way we communicate through our kids and through our parents.
Mr. Pichel, now, 30 seconds?
I thought he answered.
If
was a minute, this is
you don't
30
need to take it
seconds.
if you don't care.
Take it, Rich. Take your 30 seconds. All right. Like I said, communication. I forgot where I was before.
Yeah.
Communication between the council person in your ward. Communication from that council person to the rest of the council, from the rest of the council to the mayor. As a leader, as a council president, I would make sure that the council members are held accountable for it and out there and working and doing their job, not sitting around collecting a paycheck.
Thank you. And that's all the questions that we have for this evening. And I want to thank the reporters for their help in this. And now we are going to go to our 2-minute closing statement, in which you are going to tell everyone what you're going to do if you become council president, and why they should vote for you. And so we're going to go in reverse order, and Mr. Richard Pichel will start.
You give it to me. I'd like to thank everybody, thank my opponents up here. The reason I'm running for council president is I saw when I was on council that for 3 years that there's lack of leadership. There's nobody accountable for anything up there. And it has to be, everyone has to be held accountable. And there's a lot of areas, when you're given a mission, I call it, you're given a task, there's no accountability for that task. I remember bringing in a company that wanted to come in and do something in the city. You could have brought in easy $200,000. Nobody followed through. I did a presentation, nobody followed through. You're losing ratables. There's no leadership. And I promise you, as council president, I will be there and I will be a leader. There's a lot of areas that we didn't cover tonight. The animal shelter was covered perfectly. That would be straightened out my first day on the job. With the police department, safer streets, that was never covered. We need safer streets. The police department does a great job. We need to work with other municipalities. We should have a, what I call a power day. You look and see when there's, when the crime is, you find those hours, then you work with your resources. You work with the county police, you work with the sheriff's department, you work with Roselle. And you bring that in at that time, and you keep your areas safe. And that's the way you're going to do it. After a while, the criminals are going to forget, hey, I'm not coming to Linden, because the cops are out here all the time. The animal shelter was covered, eliminate the garbage tax. That's one main thing we definitely have to get rid of. It's not fair to the residents, and it's not fair to our seniors. Our roadways, to repair our roadways was never covered. I'm looking to have to lease a milling machine. Get the milling machine out there. We have qualified city workers. We'll cross-train to work that milling machine and cut your costs in half to repair your roadways. And I see the red signs up. Thank you very much for having me here tonight, and come out and vote column B, Derek Armstead, Rich Pichelle. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next speaker is
30 seconds.
Mr. Alvarez.
Thank you. Thank you again to the Linden Democratic Club, Union County League of Women Voters, the Board of Education, and all of you residents. Thank you for listening. I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight about the election and our city. The main issue in this campaign are property taxes. If property taxes were balanced and we're paying less, we wouldn't be worrying about the rest of the stuff, and everything will fit into place. But our property taxes are out of control in this city. They have nearly doubled in the past 8 years. Not gone up, but double. And everything suffers because of property taxes. Seniors, businesses, working families, everyone. And at the same time, services have slashed. Less police to patrol the streets, less men to pick up garbage, less time for city inspectors to process any permits that are needed. Less potholes fixed and streets paved, less parks built. This election boils down to this. Is the city heading in the right direction? If you think so, then you should vote for the other side. But when I talk to voters, I hear differently. I am proud that the column A Democratic team will bring an approach of collaboration that will lower our taxes, improve services, and make City Hall more accountable. My opponent is running on a ticket headed by a 20-year incumbent who has raised your taxes, slashed your services, and charged you for garbage pickup out for good measures. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of paying for more taxes, and the garbage tax was just a sneaky way of raising them. I talk to people on the streets on a regular basis. You will not see me dressed like this, so you might not recognize me. I'm the guy who dressed in shorts and a T-shirt and then screaming, running around, because that's what I do. But when somebody needs something, all I do is get a phone call. If you need somebody up there as council president that can get things done, you will vote for me. You know me, you know who I am, and you know what I can do. So I hope that you will decide to vote for me and Ms. Cosby on June 3rd. Column A, Democratic line. Thank you.
Thank you. And the final speaker for this evening is Carmen Sanchez Southward.
So I'm the other side, and I'm way out in column F. But you know what? Being the underdog makes it that much sweeter when you win. If City Hall was doing a perfect job, you wouldn't be here tonight, and I wouldn't be here tonight. Obviously, there's work to do. The alternative is what you're already familiar with. You know what they can do. I'm not going to focus on what's been done right, and some things have, so credit has to be given where credit's deserved. But I am going to focus on what we could do to make Linden a better place tomorrow. That's my job. I want to leave you with some really important questions. Is Linden for sale to the highest bidder with the largest piggy bank? Think about it. We don't have a lot of money, but we have your voice, hopefully. Will the true democracy of Linden come through and vote for the voice of the people? Who on the City Council has taken a true leadership role? Who has distinguished themselves from the rest? Who has spoken out against corruption? No one here has the independence to stand up because they are beholden to others. I know Linden is not for sale, and I am not for sale, and I think you can tell from my character. Money will not quiet the voice of the people. Those of you that know me well know that I have a reputation for fighting for what is right and demanding justice, as I fear no one except for God. I know you'll make the right decision because I know that you also want the best for you and for your families. May God bless you and guide you in the partnership of electing myself and my running mate, Michael Puzio, to represent you in the near future. Thank you and good night.
Thank you. And you know, you people are lucky. You have a lot to choose from. Not everyone has as many people who want to be involved in helping you govern your city. I think you should appreciate these people. I certainly do. Let's give them a good round. Thank you very, very much. Hard questions. Good work.